How about that for a view? Welcome along to Sydney Harbour Bridge, Opera House, and we are on the ground in New South Wales, bright and early. I've just rolled out of bed because I was having to do a chat on TalkSport, and I thought, you know what, sunrise looks absolutely unbelievable. I'll come down here before it gets too busy when the street sweepers are out and do a little video, because yesterday the news was absolutely dominated by the fact that Owen Farrell has been called up to the Lions squad. Huge story, I did a separate video on that. So Owen Farrell is a part of the squad. Elliot Daly is injured, so in this video I'll react to the team news in a bit more detail, possibly do some movers and shakers, but that might be its own separate video as well, as I have been doing them separate, so we'll see what happens. But I'll start off on the team, and what an absolute spot to be able to do so. So come with me on a beauty of a morning here in Sydney. Bit fresh, but it's pretty good to be honest, given that it's there midwinter. After here, when we get to Canberra, Adelaide, then it gets a bit cooler, and Melbourne as well for the second test will be pretty cool. But how good is this? Have a look. There it is. Awesome spot this, awesome city, and great to be back in it. So the team, let's start off with Elliot Daly actually, because I spoke a lot about Owen Farrell yesterday and probably didn't spend enough time speaking about Daly. That is a brutal injury, isn't it? Like, you feel for the guy. I asked Andy Farrell in his press conference about how he's trying to build this team in a short space of time, and then you lose Thomas Williams, who was your form 9. You now lose Elliot Daly, who's your form fullback. In both cases, in fullback, not a huge amount of cover there. Scrum half, there it is. Gibson Park actually looked really good against the Reds, but when Thomas Williams went down, we hadn't seen him yet. So, yeah, I mean, it's not ideal. Andy Farrell said hopes it's not a trend, but I think Elliot Daly was playing his way into test contention. Like, I think he would have started the first test against the Wallabies, and other people I think have suggested he'd be the 23 just because he has such versatility, but I think he had a great chance of starting that first test. So for him to be injured and to be out of the tour, I think is pretty gutting for him. You really feel for him. And the fact that it had been his third tour, and if he had played fullback, it would have been, what would it have been? So it would have been his third tour. He'd have played wing in 2017, centre in 2021, and it could have been fullback in 2025, which is pretty extraordinary to play 3 different positions for the Lions in 3 different test series. So I really feel for Elliot Daly. I thought he was playing his best stuff. Brutal. Elsewhere, in terms of the team that Andy Farrell has named, 14 changes from that which took on the Reds, which isn't a huge surprise, is it? I mean, we're talking about a team that you're still trying to get together and guys needing opportunities and working combinations. Within that though, there is some quite interesting, I think, selections, and everyone's playing for a test start. So where should we start? Run through. I don't have the team in front of me, so this will test my knowledge. So if you look at the front row, and you've got Pierre Schoeman, Luke Cowan-Dickie, and Finlay Bealham, all of them I think playing for involvement in the test team. Just walking around by the river here, let me see if I can show you. How good. You're not going to see it, but in the distance there's some people just going for a kayak. Some of the properties as well around the harbour here in Sydney are absolutely ridiculous. Unbelievable. So yeah, I think the front row is playing for their involvement in the tests. So Schoeman at loose head at the moment, I'd have Porter and Genge. Cowan-Dickie at hooker, I think it's between him and Kelleher for who backs up Sheehan. And then Bealham, I think, has been really good on the tour, to be fair, but I'd have Will Stewart ahead of him, and then possibly Tyg Furlong. But Furlong we haven't seen the best of yet, so I think he's definitely got opportunity there. So all of those guys playing for a spot in the front row. I think, actually, we should talk about Keenan and Kinghorn, because they get their first starts. And geez, a huge opportunity for both of those players to actually properly start in the test series now, after Daly went down injured. But we need to see something, I think in particular from Keenan, because he's been injured. So we need to see what he looks like and how the recovery's gone. He says it's been okay, but you kind of want to see them in action. Kinghorn, there's no worries about form and fitness. He's just played a long season for Toulouse. The question for him is how much he knows and can bed into what the Lions are trying to do, I suppose, the structures of their game. Speaking to him last week when he first arrived, I asked him, have you been receiving messages from the coaches, or are you coming in completely fresh? And he said he was coming in completely fresh. So that's quite a lot of work to catch up on. I know the Lions haven't been together too long, but what is it? You've got the week in Portugal, the week in Dublin, a couple of weeks here. So yeah, the fact that they're both playing, I think, is good. And in particular because Daly has gone down. But I guess, yeah, there is massive opportunity for both of them to start in the Test series, and one to keep an eye on. Let's talk about centres. So the centre partnership. I think centres have been an issue, and I said it in the video that I did yesterday about Owen Farrell's inclusion, that how much of that is to do with the fact the centres haven't massively clicked. Gary Ringrose was brilliant against the Western Force. Aki was better against the Reds. I think we're yet to see the best of Sione Tuipulotu, and Hugh Jones has just come in. I thought Hugh Jones had a mixed game against the Reds. I thought he was poor in the first half, but he's coming back to form and fitness. But then I thought he was really good in the second half, so maybe he will get there as well. This is awesome. So maybe Owen Farrell's inclusion is partly because of the centres and the centre options. But for this game, he's gone Scotland. And previously, he's been splitting up the Irish and the Scottish pair. And Andy Farrell's been saying that we've put that all at the door. It's not about Irish or Scottish. We're about the Lions now. And I get that, but there's a certain level of continuity and cohesion you get from having players that have played together more often. So I think Hugh Jones and Sione Tuipulotu have a real opportunity here to show, do you know what, pair us together, particularly with Finn Russell, and that's your kind of midfield and your creative axis, probably of Gibson Parker's 9 for the Test series. Ben White as well, by the way. I don't know, Ben White could play his way in. He's coming off the bench as well, isn't he? But the centres for this game, I think, is quite important. Then, just to round off a few more parts of the team, if I look at the back row, Henry Pollock at 6, Josh van der Fleer, Ben Earl. I would say, generally speaking, the kind of experiment of 3 sevens or multiple sevens so far for the Lions in 2025 hasn't really worked. Like if you look at Dublin, when it was Curry, Morgan, Earl, they didn't necessarily have their best games. We saw it the other night against the Queensland Reds, where it was Curry, Morgan, Conan, where Morgan was absolutely exceptional. But I don't think we necessarily saw the best of Tom Curry. So Pollock at 6, Van der Fleer 7, who was very good in Perth, and then Ben Earl at 8 again. Quite how that combination works. Something that actually I did find quite interesting with what Andy Farrell said was how good of a line-out jumper Henry Pollock is. And when we're looking at 6, and I feel like they're going to go for either a Chesham or a Tyg Byrne, that kind of big body second row, like light second row, or kind of big 6. Maybe that's not the case. Like, could Pollock end up being a 6 for the Lions? Let me go down here. It might be a bit quieter. It's basically everyone just doing their morning runs. Puts the rest of us to shame in terms of somewhere to go running, doesn't it? Around here. So yeah, the back row, balance of the back row. I might grab a seat. Oh. So the balance of the back row and what that looks like. Elsewhere in the team, there was something else that I wanted to speak about. Hang on, let me get the team up. I guess you've got James Ryan, his first start in the second row. I feel like he might be up against it just because of the performances of Itoje, McCarthy, Byrne, Chesham, but we'll see. 6-2 bench split, actually, we should speak about that. Yeah, 6-2 bench split. First time we've seen that from the Lions. So Ben White and Marcus Smith are the only replacements. Do you know what? I think Marcus Smith is up against it to get in the Test team. But this is the sort of opportunity when it's a 6-2 bench split that you show your versatility, you come on and have an impact, and you give Andy Farrell, you put it in his mind that he could go 6 forwards, which would give someone like Marcus Smith an opportunity to appear on the bench. Joe McCarthy, Scott Cummings, Jack Morgan, Tyg Furlong, Ellis Genge, Dan Sheehan. I feel like there was something else, but yeah, 6-2 bench for the first time on this tour. I wonder why. I suppose you want to see your options. We haven't seen it yet. Could be pretty crucial. But I'll leave it there. unless something else springs to mind. I'll leave it there. Give me your view in the comments. I hope you've enjoyed this little walk and talk around the Sydney Opera House. There it is in the background, the Harbour Bridge. You tilt it up a bit. Oh, no, that's going to zoom in. Well, anyway, you get the idea. Drop a comment down below, like the video, subscribe to the channel, walk and talk around the Sydney Opera House on the Harbour Bridge in the background. Nice one.